the ranch that stood alone. The summer heat shimmered off the dusty road as Caleb Walker stood barefoot in dripping wetboard shorts, arms crossed, while two police officers stared him down like he was public enemy number one. Behind them, a woman in a blinding pink sun hat and oversized sunglasses was screeching and waving her arms like she was trying to flag down a plane. "That's him," she shrieked, jabbing her manicured finger at Caleb. "That's the trespasser. He's been using our community pool without permission. I want him arrested immediately." The taller of the two officers, a guy built like a linebacker with a square jaw and stern eyes, turned to Caleb. "Sir, we received a report that you're trespassing on private HOA property," he said, voice clipped and professional. "Can we see some ID?" Caleb wiped water from his eyes, trying to stay calm as his heart thundered with disbelief. He lived right next door, had his entire life. His father's ranch predated their perfect little subdivision by over 70 years. He handed the officer his driver's license. "You're gonna feel real silly in about 2 minutes," he said, unable to keep the frustration out of his voice. Behind the officers, the woman who Caleb would later know by the very fitting name of Cynthia crossed her arms and smirked like she'd already won a court case. Kids and parents gathered around the pool, whispering and staring. Caleb shifted uncomfortably on the burning concrete, the Texas sun baking down on his bare shoulders. Just as he thought things couldn't get any more absurd, another HOA board member, a wiry old guy in a red polo shirt, came charging across the pool deck, waving a stack of papers in the air like a madman. "We warned you," the man barked, jabbing a trembling finger in Caleb's direction. "Using our facilities without paying dues. You're a freeloader and a thief. We're taking legal action." The man who Caleb would soon know was named Gordon shoved a letter against Caleb's damp chest. The bold, black words "cease and desist" screamed up at him from the page. Caleb stared at the officer still by the squad car, radios crackling with static. A terrible knot formed in his stomach. This was going to get ugly fast. It had all started about 3 weeks earlier when the record-breaking July heat wave gripped the town of Bridger Hollow. The air was thick enough to swim through, and every inch of Caleb's body was coated in sweat and dust from a long day mending fences. He had trudged past the thin tree line separating his ranch from the brand-new Riverview Estates subdivision, hearing the sound of splashing and laughter from their freshly christened community pool. Good for them, Caleb thought, wiping sweat from his brow. Kids deserved summer fun. His own family's old pond, where he'd spent countless boyhood summers swinging off a rope into cool water, had dried into a patchy mess after years of drought and neglect. Caleb had dreams of restoring it someday, but dreams didn't fix fences or keep the power bill paid. Then the flyer came. Riverview Estates Community Pool Grand Opening Residents Welcome, it read, with cheerful cartoon pictures of kids splashing under umbrellas. No fine print. No ID requirements. No mention of HOA membership. Just welcome. The next afternoon, desperate to cool off, Caleb threw a towel over his shoulder and wandered through the trees toward the gleaming blue oasis. The pool gates were wide open, kids ran freely, parents lounged under umbrellas sipping lemonade. Nobody stopped him. Nobody asked questions. It felt casual, neighborly, like old times before subdivisions and bylaws ruled everything. Caleb swam, cooled off, and headed home without incident. It wasn't until his third visit that he noticed Cynthia pink sun hat, giant clipboard, judgmental stare. She locked onto him the moment he stepped through the gate. He gave a polite nod. She didn't nod back. Instead, she whispered urgently to a woman beside her, and Caleb was sure of it, snapped a photo of him with her phone. 2 days later, a nasty, anonymous note appeared on Caleb's mailbox. Unauthorized use of HOA property will not be tolerated. Final warning. Caleb crumpled it up and tossed it. His land wasn't part of Riverview Estates. He wasn't under their HOA. They had no authority over him. He figured they'd get over it. He was wrong. Now, dripping wet by the pool with an angry mob gathering and cops checking his ID, Caleb realized Cynthia wasn't the sort to get over anything. The officer returned from the squad car, looking uncertain. "Sir," he said, "it appears you don't live inside the HOA boundary lines." Cynthia's smug smile froze. Before Caleb could breathe a sigh of relief, Gordon jabbed his stack of papers again. "Fine. Then we'll sue him in civil court. For trespassing and damages. He owes us thousands in back dues." The crowd gasped audibly. Cell phones appeared. Caleb swore he saw 3 people start recording. The officers exchanged a look, then shrugged. "Sir, it's a civil matter," one said. "We can't get involved unless it turns criminal." And with that, they left Caleb to face the snarling pack alone. The very next morning, Caleb received a hand-delivered summons. Civil court. Damages demanded, $5,000. Outrageous. Laughable. But still real. He drove straight to town to see Mr. Elliot Granger, the family lawyer who had helped his father draft the ranch's land documents decades ago. Granger nearly choked on his coffee laughing when Caleb explained the situation. "Son," Granger said, "they have no case. In fact, if they're trying to annex you into their HOA after the fact, they're breaking a dozen different laws." Together, they crafted a formal response. Granger pulled deeds and plats from county archives. Caleb's ranch predated Riverview Estates by nearly 80 years. He wasn't just outside their jurisdiction, his land had seniority over their entire neighborhood. Caleb hand-delivered the legal notice to the next HOA board meeting. He strode into the white tent, dripping sweat, dusty boots tracking dirt on the pristine plastic flooring. He dropped the letter onto the folding table in front of Gordon and Cynthia. "You're messing with the wrong guy," Caleb said, loud enough for every HOA member to hear. The board members turned pale. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. Cynthia's mouth flapped open and closed, speechless. Caleb tipped his hat, turned, and walked out. But it didn't end there. Days later, Caleb found a huge red notice stapled to his front gate. "Vacate immediately. Failure to comply will result in HOA action." They were now trying to evict him from his own land. That night, strange cars idled at the edge of his property, headlights off, watching. Someone left a threatening letter in his mailbox: "Sell or suffer the consequences." Then came the private security ex-bouncers in black SUVs, armed with clipboards and intimidation tactics, trespassing onto Caleb's ranch. And then the unthinkable. A firebomb, a homemade incendiary device tossed onto his pasture in the dead of night. Caleb narrowly prevented a wildfire that could have destroyed his home, his animals, and everything his family had built. The sheriff launched a full criminal investigation. Cynthia and Gordon were arrested along with 2 HOA board members. Conspiracy, attempted fraud, reckless endangerment. The media descended. Headlines blared across the state. Small-town HOA sparks firestorm after trying to seize ranch. Public outrage exploded. By the time it was over, Riverview Estates HOA was dissolved, facing dozens of lawsuits and federal scrutiny. Caleb rebuilt his pasture, repainted the ranch's old wooden sign. Private property. Not now, not ever. And for the first time in months, he sat on his porch at sunset, Duke the Hound at his feet, watching the horizon turn gold over his family's land. He had fought. He had endured. And he had won. Because some things in life, truth, family, home, can't be stolen by bullies in pink sun hats no matter how hard they try. Not now. Not ever.